Software development has come a long way locally, yet few of our products can compete globally. Why? Should we even be looking to compete globally? First of all, I disagree because I believe that in Nigeria and in Africa at large, we have talents that can compete on a global scale, on a global space. Yeah, and even products. Who builds the products? The talents. So I don't think that we have substandard products when it comes to global, I don't know how you put it, when you want to measure it. I don't think so. I think we have great designers. I think we have great product developers. I think we have the infrastructure. We have even better infrastructure than some other African countries. We do. That's my space, so I don't know football. I think we, well, I think software development covers a wide range of products, places. And we do have the infrastructure. We have a very large market. You might argue that what is actually the addressable market in that actual size, but it also depends on what you're selling. You know. But to directly answer this question, I would disagree with what they say here, because it seems like it's saying we do not have products that can compete globally. We do. So many. We may not have so many unicorns, or we've not gotten to that level yet. But in terms of talents, in terms of product development, software development, I believe so strongly that our talents here in Nigeria and in Africa can sit par on par with any talent in the world. Yes. Sorry, you want to say something first?
So I don't agree that we don't have products that can compete globally. Right? The thing is, for the sector that is booming, in my own opinion, for a sector that is booming and can hire, like I said, the talents that will compete with talent globally, in those sectors, we have products that are competing that are better than everywhere else. They are better than everywhere else. But we are not building, like, if you have, people are not, we're building for our specific problems, right? And our specific problems are very local. They are actually very local. They are not selling our problem to someone in Germany. They are not selling those solutions to someone in Germany. In some other cases, we have products that would enter any other market and do very well. Right, so I think that's, so saying that generally what you see is not necessarily, yes, we can do better, but I don't feel it just outrightly writes off the market.
I was going to say that a lot of people conflate innovation with westernization. And a lot of the products that we are building are tailored to fix African problems or Nigerian problems, as the case may be. We're not trying to fix global problems. So there is no comparative scale because we're in one place. They're trying to do another thing, right? We have maybe like savings apps and all of that. America has 401k. They have social security. They have all of these incentives that actually take care of you. You don't need to save or like by yourself. The government does all of that. So our problems, just like Tunji said, are tailored to our own, or our solutions rather, are tailored to our own problems. So to put them on the same scale is, and I mean, we're in a different climb with completely different problems, different focuses, even different resources, right? What kind of resources does a dev in Nigeria with no light for 1 week, or all those kind of problems? I mean, they might sound like excuses, but these are real life issues, right? You're trying to build something and the government has put a levy on you, a tax on you, all of these things. We can't, there really is no comparative scale to me. So
I asked a similar question, so I'll just build more context on on it. So I think if we think about products, look at it this way. I believe, let me try and amplify what the person asked. Why don't we have any product in Nigeria that can compete with the likes of the big four? Facebook, Amazon, just hear me out. So what you guys are calling westernization is actually globalization, if you think about it. And if you look at products from the perspective of scalability, so you have a product that actually solves Nigeria problem, but if you put it in America, would it work? If you put it in India, would it work? If you put it in Mozambique, will it work? That's what we're talking about. And one of the things I've noticed, right, because I'm at the point of building my own product too, and one of the things I realized that I had to step back a little bit is that what I'm actually trying to do is compete for market share in a space. I'm not trying to make an impact per se. What an impact look like is that it will change the fabric of whatever is happening. I don't know if you guys have heard the story of Neraland. Shewa had the opportunity to build what Meta had today. In fact, Facebook started in 2004 or 2014 or so. Shewa started in 2005, just 1 year. Shewa started as Forum. That time, Forum was like the big thing that was. And Facebook started as Directory. It's the same thing. You are trying to connect people. You are just using different context. But people were telling us, in fact, Oshewa had people that wanted to give him $1 million as a den. Like, Alpha, we like what you are bidding. We can scale it up. Like, this thing is actually making sense. And remember, Nigeria has markets because of our population. You've already gone. By the time it was number 3 in 2006, the most visited website in Nigeria, it could have capitalized on that and said, you know what, let me turn it to an app. It works in Nigeria. It will work in America. But guess what? For whatever reason, I don't know why it was stored, but just a year after, Facebook changed direction. So I guess the question is, we do have products, yes, but are they viable for scalability that it can adapt in any, because again, see, to be truth is that if you have, let's even assume that you are the champion of Nigeria, if your product can escape Nigeria, you can, like, your market cap will not rise above that. So our question is, why are we not building products that can affect the whole world, not just our context? And if you say, oh, we are fine, and that's a very bad state to be, because what you are doing is that you are riding on trend. If that trend wave goes, what will remain of the company?
There's one thing, right? There is the product owner, someone who owns the product, right? Who is managing the product and is putting it out there in the market. Then there is a different thing if the product itself can actually scale. If the product can serve people in other markets and in other continents, right? That is one thing entirely. Then the person who owns the product being limited by maybe other factors themselves or any other thing that is happening in the market. That is one thing. Someone did mention the Nigerian factor, right? It's possible that I have created this pencil and everybody around the world can use this pencil. But the only reason why people around the world can't use it is because Nigeria is limiting me. Do you understand? The Nigerian government has put measures in place to kind of like stunt my growth. That's why I'm not scaling.
Sorry.
Not
No.
because the product in itself cannot be used by everybody around the world. There is that factor. Do you understand? There is that factor where you know that okay, it's an external factor that is limiting you. Then there is your own thinking, your own belief, you as the owner of the product, and then the third part is the product in itself.
So, sorry, I just want to quickly say something. I don't, I know it's very important to think globally from the start, but I think it's more important to build products that solve a local problem. And that is what a lot of Nigerians and Nigerian founders and co build for, the Nigerian and the African problem. right? And that's one side of it. There's also the side of funding, right? Nigeria and Africa were not as matured when it comes to funding like these other guys, right? You talked about Facebook. Facebook did make money for 7 years. And the investors were ready to back it. Try a Nigerian investor with that thing. You see them here in your house like this, everybody will sit down. They don't, you get, so those are some constraints, not that the product itself cannot scale, but, there are powers that be that may not allow it to work like, these other people can. You can't play the same game that they can play. It's almost like you want to, even now, play the game the Chinese are playing. You kind of need to think twice. Yes, because those guys are playing for 50 to 100 years. You are thinking 5-year plan, 10-year plan. You get, there's a very big difference, and that's just the funding side of it. I mean, that's just my 2 cents, and I think you wanted to say something.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I kind of disagree with everything everybody has said. Everything every single person has said, right? Because the question is, Nigerians are building software or rather, local creators or local builders are building software for local problems. And why are we not building for global problems? That's the long and short of the question. And the question, you could reverse it and ask why global builders are not building for hyper-local markets, right? And what do I mean? Like, if you're a Facebook, why are you not building a Gigi? And I'm using Gigi as an example to point out something here, right? It's like, why would Facebook not deign to build a local marketplace that has the DNA of a local market specifically for that local entrant? And you will find that Facebook does, right? So when they have their eyes on a market like Brazil, they will spend a lot of time, understanding the Brazilian local market and then build a specific product for Brazil. So it means that, and I'm going to go back to my point, but I want to start from the very beginning, is that there is a very strong, even though it's invisible, a very strong cultural gate at any step of the way when you're building anything. The reason why we argue now that local Nigerians are not building for local is because we're falling prey to the survivalist bias, right? It is the local businesses that are alive, right? Nigerians have built for global markets for as long as I can remember, for as long as I've been in tech. They are all dead, every single one of them, right? Which means that there is a very strong real force that kills you if you are building locally. If you're local, building internationally, you have to understand that you will die, right? The reason why you are building locally is because that's all you can build, right? And if you start from that very basic premise, then you have to ask yourself, why is that the case, right? Before you can conquer the world needs to speak your language, right? Which is why the British had to go teach English too. America is a cultural superpower, right? It means that it is easy for a non-American to use an American product because they have the cultural power. They've won the war, the culture war. To get a non-Nigerian to use a Nigerian product has like an insurmountable barrier that you need to be mindful of, right? So now going back to my original conversations about this, right? There's also like the Matthew effect, right? To whom much is given, more is given, right? That's how I like to interpret the Matthew effect, which means that there are some verticals that are locked up, right? You could not build a competing social media app from Nigeria. It's not possible. And the reason is not because you're not smart enough, it's not because you don't have the technical know-how and everything, is that there is a network effect to starting up any social media platform, and we do not make the minimum activation energy for that to happen, right? For you to build a social media application that will win globally, it has to first win in the US. Back to the Chinese question, that's why America is the melting pot for ByteDance, right? If they win there, they win everywhere, right? And that's the strategy. Now, you are correct about like funding being an important thing. If you really want to win in this kind of context, knowing that the culture is against you, the market gates are against you, like a lot of people are locked in app gardens, you have to just be willing to burn money for an unforeseeable amount of time. You don't have to look for profit. This is a war you want to win. And for you to have that war, then you have to have an ideological backend. China's ideological backend is this government. The government wants to win. It's not an individual. If it was an individual, they would be dead, you know? So the point is, software is an abstraction over like a way of thinking, right? So when we say we build good software, you have to ask yourself, what does that mean? It means that I have, in lines of code and in like a product package and a branding, I've been able to satisfactorily meet an emergent demand that I was able to identify. That's it, right? I met a condition and then I built something for that market. Then we judge it based on use. If a lot of people use it, then you did do your job and people like it, right? From that perspective, right, you can see now that for you to be able to build anything for a global market, you have to understand the global market, right? It is impossible to understand the global market. So the global market is typically short for the American market, which is where westernization, your point, came in, right? If you can build for America, you can build for the world, because the world has been Americanized, because they have a very strong cultural export. Hollywood, the music, everything, right? The world is westernized to an arbitrary degree, which means if you wanted to do this in reverse, you have to Nigerianize the world. That's it. Yes, we are on our way. Yes, that's a very good point. Yeah, we are on our way. And so you can watch like cultural trends and see that Nigeria's cultural power has gotten strong over the years, and it has become easier for Nigerians to sell as a result. Yeah. That's the truth, right? Now, if we don't break all of this and we fixate on the software, which is the most, what's the word? That's the thing that everybody has. Like, there's no alpha here. There's no advantage here. You know, a Russian developer is just as good as a Nigerian developer, just as good as a US developer, just as good as a Chinese one, right? We don't have like patents. You don't have like proprietary technology that nobody can use. So we don't have any real advantage. We might be smart, but we don't have an advantage. You know, like there's a cap on what you can do within the limits of the brain. So all of these things combined give you, like, when you look at the local people building for local, they're the most pragmatic of anyone else. And that's why they're alive. But we cannot now look at them and then use it as, like, you cannot then look at them and use it to yeah, you can't use it to draw a conclusion that we're only building for local market. It's that we can only build for local markets until a point comes where the Nigerian cultural export, for example, is the strongest, say, continent-wide, right? It's also the fact that even though we are numerous, we don't have a lot of money. We're brokers, right? And also in Africa, the continent itself, Africa is way more gated as a continent than other continents, right? So if you're in the EU, it's easy to sell to everyone in the EU than it is to sell to everyone in Africa. Every day I'm going on Tech Kabbalah, I'm seeing tech startups expanding. And then I see what they go through to expand to a neighboring country. Yeah, exactly. You're a flutter wave, and it's so freaking hard to set up a Kenyan operation. How are you going to scale? Fair. You know, these are like real things that prevent people from doing any of these things. Yeah. That's why, like, software is not a problem. Like, if it were a software problem, we would have figured it out by now. You know, so that's what I think.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.